So you guys, first off, when I used to watch aerials, we're going to have the wind blow from the true direction, so kind of from my... when I used to watch aerials, and I'd watch somebody go along and do a loop. When I first used to watch loops, it always looked to me that the center of rotation on the aerial was the nose of a board. Or when I watch somebody do like a wheelie skipper and you watch the board spin around, it kind of looked like the center was the nose, or a Vulcan. But when you look more and more closely, you realize that when a loop is going, the board is not pivoting on the nose, it's sort of spinning on the middle. Where when you watch someone do a Vulcan or a wheelie skipper and you see the board spin around, the board spins around in the middle, because not only is the tail traveling forward on the move, the nose is traveling backward. So therefore it could not be the pivot point. So where would be the most natural place for a board to spin around from? Like a wheelie skipper. Where would you think the board would spin around from?
Center of the board. The mass base.
The mass base, right? You think like Lazy Susan, right? You go up in the air, Mike, you kick the tail, it's going to go zing, spin around the mass base, and land. That would make a lot of sense. But that means that every single person that does every aerial has the most talented feet ever in the world. Because that means that they're able to kick up and do whatever they're going to do with their feet. Because if the mass base is center of rotation, what is located in front of the mass base that you can control? Nothing, right? That means everything is control in the back. Well, that's just not true. I always thought that for a while too. I was like, yeah, if you kick the feet just right, you can spin the board around. And a lot of you guys have played with jump jibes, where you're just kind of setting the rig up, right, Johnny, and kicking the board and watching it Lazy Susan around the mass base, or watch it spin around. So we see that idea. But believe it or not, aerials do not rotate with the nose and do not rotate from the mass base. The center of rotation in aerials is halfway between the front foot strap and the mass base. That means that I can control the back of the board with my feet, but I can control the front of the board with the mass base, or with my arms. That way I can make both ends do something and have control the whole way. Now, the further these distances, the harder it's going to spin, my engineers, right? And that's why it was a lot harder to do Vulcans and stuff in the old days, because the mass is up on the front and the foot strap's away on the back. Now you guys that have freestyle boards, how far is the mass base from the foot strap? Very close together, so it makes for a very tight spin. Much easier spin. So, what we need to learn about, I mean, foot strap control, you guys kind of understand. You pick your feet up, if you kick them one way, it goes one way, you kick them the other. That makes sense. But mass base control is a different story. If I take this quarter and put it on my book here, and I put my finger on the top of it, I want to slide the quarter to Mike. Am I going to have much luck sliding the quarter to Mike with my finger right here? Not really. But if I move my finger down and down and down and down, and the more angle my finger gets on the quarter, the easier it is to slide that quarter to Mike. Or I could take the table and tilt the table, and the quarter would also slide to Mike with the same amount of force. This quarter represents the mast base, and my finger is the mast. And the mast, the more angle the mast gets on the mast base in the air, the more leverage it has to turn the front of the board, just like the more leverage you have to slide the quarter. Now, if we divide the board in half, windward side and leeward side, if I put the mast on the windward side and push down on the mast, which direction would the nose turn? Downwind, right? If I put the mast on the windward side and pulled on the mast, which way would the nose turn? Upwind. All right? If I put the mast on the leeward side and pushed on it in the air, which way would the nose turn? It would go upwind, right? If I put the mast on the leeward side and pulled on it, it would go downwind. So what's interesting, on a loop, which way does the nose turn? Upwind or downwind? Downwind, right? And on a Vulcan, which way does the nose turn? Upwind or downwind? Downwind. On a loop, we turn the nose downwind with the mast on the windward side and we push. On the Vulcan, we turn the mast, we put the mast on the leeward side and we pull. So even though I'm turning the board the same direction, how we push or pull on the boom and where we set the mast before we do it is going to make a big difference with where we turn that nose in the air. Now, you all have amazing mast base control right now doing one thing: beach starting. Right? You're standing in shallow water, Robert. You're standing up in the playpen. You got the sail in the hand. You got your sail in your hand. You want to turn the board downwind. We all lean the sail forward. We push down the mast, pull the nose downwind, right? We want to turn it upwind. We pull the sail up to us. We pull back on that mast, right? We can pull that mast base, bring the board right back up to us so we can step on it. Now, is it easier to control your sail while you're standing in shallow water and steer the board wherever you want if the sail's full of wind, or is it easier to turn the board wherever you want with the sail off? Off. This leads us to bogus loop advice number one. Number one bogus loop advice. What is it? Sheet in. Sheet in hard. Jump high, sheet in. If I jump high and sheet in, where is my mast located in relationship to the board? Straight over the middle. What direction is the nose going to go? Straight down. All right. We can do this kind of loop if we're where? Coquipa, Maui, big air. I got time to jump, sheet out, move the sail where I want, and go into the loop. Out here in the river, if I jump first, I'm taking off with the sail in completely the wrong position. And it's going to make it very, very, very hard to steer the nose out of the way and turn the board out of the way. And this mast-based control, I am going to have to learn how to turn the nose out of the way so that I'm trying to do the loop that's more like a plate spin. We're trying to do the more horizontal, sideways loop, right? We want to sail away from it on the river. So we're not trying to go up and jump and flip. We have to learn to actually jump sheeted out. So everything that you guys know about jumping, you're not going to do with this move. And we are going to spend the first 3 exercises learning a takeoff posture that is unlike anything else you've ever done, Robert. It is not like a normal jump. We are going to put the sail in a completely different place, and we're going to learn how to turn with mast-based steering. And we're going to learn how to turn the nose of the board out of our way. If the nose of the board is out of my way, I will try to loop. Because I'm afraid to loop, because why? I don't want to get hurt. I do not want to hit my board. Like, I'm okay smacking into the water, that's fine. I just don't want to come up in the air and crack down on the nose of the board, right? I do not want to hit my board. So we're going to learn how to turn the board out of the way. We're going to get the board out of the way, start to rotate with the board out of the way, get the nose out of the way, and then eventually we're going to get the nose and tail to change places and turn it into a forward. And we are going to try to get as much leverage on that mast base as possible. Now, the other way I said we got mast base, besides tilting the mast, was to do what? Tilt the table. And if you ever notice when a lot of people go into a loop, it looks like they're doing a rail ride. Like you see them take off for a loop, and their board is seriously railed over. And that also really gives that leverage on the mast base to rotate it and gets rid of surface tension in case the nose hits. So it's a combination of learning to move the rig and put the rail over, and then we're going to roll right over. So you guys understand this concept, is that we're going to learn to steer with the mast base. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet, but all the aerials that we talked about this weekend, Vulcans, Wheelie skippers, things of that nature, we're going to do a lot with flicking the boom once we're in the air, and we are not going to have a sail full of power. You never want to move a sail full of power. You always want to move a sail off. So all the moves that we learn, we're going to learn to turn the sail off before we slice it, before we slide it, before we flick it, whatever it's going to be. And we're always going to move that sail off and then turn it back on when we need it. All right? Making sense so far?
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to go through 3 crashes, exercises to help you with the loop. And we're going to stop. We're going to watch it on video. We're going to look at it on video. We're going to talk about what the parts are, and then we're going to add in crash 4. Once we get to crash 4, you guys are pretty much there, and then we'll start looking at how we're going to turn crash 4 into something that we might sail away from. All right. Exercise 1. This is a non-planing exercise, so you do not have to plane to do the move. But you must either A, have freestyle setup, so your foot straps are big enough and your feet can go in when you are not planing, or plane into this move, stop and do it non-planing because your board's not set up for it. So if you're not in the freestyle setup with the big foot straps or your feet further inboard, you have to be able to stand in those straps non-planing. Little guys, not so bad. Big guys, all right, big guys, now this is a little bit bigger, a little bit harder, so you got to have the 110 freestyle board or something with bigger straps, and you guys are going to have to learn how to hang on the mast base to get in there. This is a non-planing exercise, all right? Non-planing, you guys. Michael is the wind. I'm going across the wind. We're going to lean the mast slightly to windward. I'm going to drop my elbows down on the boom with my mast slightly to windward. That puts weight where? In the mast foot. With the weight in the mast foot, I'm going to stick my feet in the giant foot straps all the way through, hanging my weight on the boom, slogging along. I'm going to do a pivot jibe. How many of you guys have seen the Remco series on looping? Not that many. You can get that online. I'll show you. We're going to look at it a little bit today. You can buy it, or not buy it. It's free somewhere online. You can get it, and it's really good. Elbows down. I'm going to slide my backhand way back on the boom with the front hand by the harness line. Touching the front harness line is going to be critical in all of our looping attempts. We want to have that rig as far away from us as we can get. Front hand back. From here, I'm going to put my weight straight over the back foot. I'm going to lift up on the boom and lean the mast to windward. As I put my weight on the back foot and lift up on the boom, the nose will go up into the air. Basically, this is a slow motion jibe. I'm going to lift the clue and push on the mast base so the mast leans to the outside. The board's going to start to turn. As the board's going to turn, I'm going to fall off sideways. As I fall off sideways, I'm going to lift the clue over the head, push on the mast, lift the clue over the head, push on the mast until I fall into the water. And that's my exercise. My goal is to spin the nose of the board until I fall underwater. Not till I fall, but till I fall vulnerable. All right? I'm going to go across the wind, hands back on the boom. I'm going to sit down on the tail. I'm going to lean back, pick the nose up like a pivot jibe, John. The mast base is out of the water. The mast base is going to start to turn downwind as I lean the mast to windward. As I fall off the board, I'm going to lift the clue, push on the mast, lift the clue, push on the mast till the nose spins and flop under the sail. My goal is to turn the nose till I fall in the water. The nose is out of my way. If I'm planing across the wind and I want to do a forward loop, the last thing I want is my nose in the way. If I can learn to turn the nose straight downwind before I take off, I'm happy to throw myself into empty water. So I need to turn the nose.
Do you care where the nose ends up? At the end?
No, but there is a way to screw this up, David. I'm glad you asked. I don't really care how far the nose gets around. Most people can steer the nose until they fall. Not until they hit the water, but until they fall. So what happens is, and this is where the bogus sheeting in device comes in a lot, is that I have the nose up, my mast is to windward, I have great leverage on the mast base, right? No resistance because the nose is in the air. I start to fall, and I sheet it really quick. Where did my mast just go?
Into the wind.
Straight up. So for the rest of my fall, guess what the nose is going to do?
Nothing.
Nothing. I'm going to fall over and the nose is going to stop turning. I am not allowed to sheet in, I must sheet up. It's like a giant steering wheel. And if I pull the clue in, and the mast goes up, and the mast changes angle to the nose the wrong way, the nose is going to turn slower, not faster. So although this seems really simple and kind of stupid, you can screw it up. And the second I fall, I got to lift the clue and push on the mast, not pull in on the clue, and try to sheet it. The funny thing is, we're going to learn to sheet it in a loop, but it's so much later than you think.
Lift on the clue and
Push on the mast. You can feel it on a simulator like this, even standing on the ground. If I position myself on the upwind side and I really push down on this boom and lift that clue, I can make this nose swing around and swing it out of the way. How are we doing so far? What was my goal?
move the nose of the board.
The whole time. The whole time. Steer the nose. Now, how high does a mast base really have to get on a loop? How high do you have to get the board out of the water? The mast base. About this high. What move can you guys all do right now to get your mast base this high out of the water? A jump jibe. How about without jumping?
You could just sink the tail.
Sink the tail.
You can just sink the tail. Very good. So, because the takeoff posture for a loop is so strange, and again, we're going to look at it in pictures and video. Actually, you know what? Before I go any further, let me just show you a takeoff posture. Have you ever taken off from a jump like that in your life? Below the boom and sheeted out with the clue in the air?
No.
No. That's the takeoff posture for loop. You go watch your Trictionary, you watch Remco, and you actually stop right before he takes off, and you're going to watch him. Now, on the ones where he skies really high, okay, he goes into the air, and then he moves into that position from the air. But that's when you're already going off a huge wave. This is your takeoff position if you are in Rio. You're on relatively flat water. It's a very strange position. When we watch the video, which we'll all watch in a minute, but
So you're teaching us the flat water loop.
I'm teaching you to loop.
Okay.
If you, John, had the nerve to do it off a wave in Maui, a real loop, you would have done it when you were there. All you guys would have done it when you were there.
That's true.
I'm just saying, if you got the nerve to throw it off a wave, you're going to do it. You can have bad technique and throw it off a wave and do it. It's not going to happen on the river, though. And if you jump first, you're not going to loop. I'm telling you.
So there's no jump before that?
No.
You're just lifting up the nose.
It's a different takeoff posture. I do not want to, because what happens is I'm going to show you guys, you're going to go out and do crash 1, 2, and 3 beautifully. They're going to be beautiful. You're going to spin the nose. You're like, this is sick. I'm ready. And then you're going to fly into it, and you're going to jump. And you're going to blow up. It's not jump. When you go from crash 3 to crash 4, you'll learn how to change the way the board's spinning. You are not going to jump, damn it. So, crash 2, I'm pretty sure all of you guys have done before. which is a wheelie stop. You've come into the beach, you've plowed on the tail, and you stop the board. And I've had to add this. The video I show you doesn't have this in there, but what I found is when people go from crash 1 to crash 3, they don't get the mass base out of the water. So I told you guys, we all have to only get the mass base this high out of the water. So what we're going to work on is the wheelie stop, which Michael kind of got into, is we're just going to go full speed across the wind. Full speed across the wind, we're going to shove our feet way into the straps so that we can push down on the center of the back of the board, David, so your foot's all the way through. Front hand by the harness line, back hand way back by the clue. I'm going to unhook, hang down. I'm going to sheet out, lean back, stomp all my weight straight down on the tail. I'm going to pick the boom up, and the board is going to go whoosh. Lean back, sheet out, yank the boom up, pull up with my front leg, push straight down on the back foot, and I don't care what happens next.
Yeah.
I need to get the mass base up from a full plane. I need to get the mass base up high enough, but I got to figure out how to put all my weight on the back without turning the board and be able to sheet out and put that mass a little bit to windward. So literally it'd be cool if I could get it all the way over my head, but I'm screaming across the wind, hands way back on the boom. I'm going to sheet out, stomp down the tail, pick up on the front foot, pick up on the boom. The board's going to go whoosh, up into the air, and then I don't care. You can try to flip it over backwards if you want. And that should get the mass base high enough out for a loop. How are we doing so far? Now I'm going to combine those two crashes. And I'm going to plane into the wheelie and spin the nose. But I have to unlearn something that I learned when I was little. Right? Little Mikey, first day, mom and dad gave him a bike. Here, Mike, yeah, I got a bike. Take training wheels off. Mike gets on the bike, rides down the road, turns the wheel. First run of the day, first time we got on a bike, a skateboard, whatever it was, we learned that not only do we have to turn the wheel, what else do we have to do? Lean into the turn. Right? And every time we bank the turn, we lean into it. This is going to have to be unlearned. This is a behavior that you're going to have to unlearn. When I stomp down on the tail and have the board turn violently, I don't want to balance to stay on top of it. I want to fly my initial momentum direction and go to the outside of the fall. If you're running full speed, somebody grabs your ankles, you fall faster than you were when you were running. If I can turn the board sharp enough and really snap it and everything makes left turn but me, I'm flying into oblivion with a lot of momentum and a lot of speed. That's going to be a good thing. I'm not going to try to balance on this board when I do the move I'm going to show you next. So we're going to have to unlearn Little Mikey's trick that we all learned when we were all Little Mikey. And we're not going to lean into our turn and we're not going to balance on top of it. So we're screaming along across the wind, powered up, in the straps. My feet are shoved away in those straps, David. Front hand back on the boom, back hand way back on the boom, screaming along. I'm going to sheet out, lean back, pull up on the boom, and put weight on the toe of my back foot when I push the tail down. So not only is the nose going to go up, what else is it going to do? It's going to turn. So we sheet out, lean back, the tail goes down, the nose goes up, the board starts turning, I let myself fall violently to the outside, I lift the clue, push the mast, lift the clue, push the mast, until I fall in and whip myself off the side sideways. And my goal is to turn the nose until I hit the water. What's to plane into that? And you will feel, if you hit it hard enough and swing the rig to the outside, and you keep the mast base out of the water so it has no drag, this nose is going to go whoosh, and I am going to go flying to the outside. And if I have the presence to lift the clue, I am going to hit the water so hard and so fast, under the sail, of course, because the nose is already out of the way, so I'm safe. And I could see how, if I had any altitude at all, the whole thing would come around. What was my goal? Spin the nose, spin the nose, spin the nose. I've got to get the nose out of the way, and it's not going to get out of the way until it's in the air. And I can do it in a pivot jibe, not a jump. This take-off position, when you see the picture, I'm pushing down on the back foot, my board was railed, the clue is up, and my front foot is on the way up. So the board is making a left turn, and I am not, because I'm going to go flying into space through that spot. How are we doing? Okay, let's take time out and watch some videos. Let's look at this one more time, get your spots, you guys, and then we're all going to stand up and tie this together. David, you all right?
I'm fine.
Okay, you kind of look mesmerized. Never mind. All right, so we're going across the wind. Mike's the wind, right? You're on the back of the board. You sheet out, you lean back, you get the nose up, you're able to spin the nose, right? You sheet out, you lean back, you're able to spin the nose. Now, we're going to learn how to get the tail out. So we're going to sheet out, lean back, the nose is spinning. We're going to basically learn to climb the sail in the air while the nose is spinning. and flop around so that we land under the sail, downwind, underwater.
I mean, thinking like a gecko-ish.
Well, I'm going to explain more in a minute, but the idea is from here, where the nose is spinning, now we're going to get the tail out, we're going to keep spinning, and we're going to end up under the sail around, but we're a lot further than we've gotten so far. We're getting towards the end. Now, how high did I say the mast base had to go for this move?
Not that high.
About that high. And we just saw it on video, right? My mast base was no higher than that. The nose started way above it, and the tail finished way above it, but the mast base was no higher. So Brendan's come up with this just amazing analogy a couple years ago about how to get aerials when you don't jump. So now I want everybody standing up again. He's come up with an analogy which makes sense, which teaches you how people get aerials when they don't jump. So in order to understand this, I want you to all imagine you're standing in a swimming pool. Right? You may or may not have heard this story. You're standing in a swimming pool, and here's the wall. Right beside the wall. You put your hands on the wall. All right, take your hands off the wall. Now, jump out of the pool. All right, can't really happen. With your hands in the wall, on the wall, what does it take to jump out of the pool? What do you do first?
Pressure. Push.
No, you don't put pressure on your hands first. What do you do first?
You jump.
First you go down. You compress.
Right.
Then on your upswing, when you've released your motion and your body's on its way up, then you push down on your hands. And then you lift your feet up onto the out of the wall. When you see someone do a Vulcan, this is how a Vulcan works. You bounce the tail. As soon as the tail's on its way up, you push down on your front arm on the boom, and that gets you above the boom. When you watch someone Vulcan, they start here, and when they're in the middle of the rotation, the boom's down at their waist. Like good Vulcan people, the boom is below their shoulders when they rotate. And that is, after you take off on the way up, you're pushing down on the boom, and that's how you get the board to spin. The loop's a little bit different. Now what I want you to do, guys, to imagine, is that you have a bar over your head. The bar is up here. Come on, play along. This is serious. A bar over the head. And you got to jump over this bar. So now what do we got to do? This is going to take a little bit of work because our hands are a lot harder. So we really have to compress down, really hang on to that bar. We have to jump up with all of our might and then pull on the bar. And if we're lucky and we really got a good spring on it, you could get above it. But unfortunately, you guys, you're not standing on the ground. You are standing on a diving board. So with the bar over your head, now I've got to think about this with a diving board. So now when I push down, what do I have to wait for? Right, so I wait down, the board rebounds. When the board springs up, then I can jump off that board and pull down on my hands. Now guess what? On the other side of that bar, that you're going to jump over is a bed, your bed.
A babe?
A bed.
Okay,
No, you're going to hurt her on this one, Robert. No, this is serious. This is serious because what I need you to imagine is flipping into your bed. So we're going on starboard. You guys playing along. Everybody's sailing on starboard. All right? Or you're just going to do this exercise. You have the bar over your head. You're going to push the bar over your head, go down on the diving board. You're going to spring up off the diving board. You're going to pull yourself above the bar, and you're going to tuck your shoulder down and flip into your bed. Shoulders first. Head over heels. Going into the bed, just like you're going to run up and flip into the bed on the way over. And if I time it just right, and the nose is spinning, and I go down on the tail, and when I spring up on the tail, I get myself above the boom, I tuck into a little cannonball, and I go to flip into my bed, the nose is going to go right down into the water and spin backwards because I did the boom flick. I'm going to be above the boom, and I'm going to go crashing into the water, shoulders first, and land under my sail. Which is going to make me feel pretty damn good.
Yeah. That's a loop.
But I learned to make the nose and tail change places. First I spin the nose. I can spin the nose rapidly and have it just eject me to the outside like no other. With that kind of whip and that kind of speed, if that thing's going to throw me off the side violently, man, if I could just get that tail out of the water, I can ride that sail the rest of the way around through the flip. But this takes the timing of a diving board, that spring and release. And then the ability to climb yourself above the boom in the air, and that's what you see on my loop. You see me going down, the board is going up, and then somehow or another, my body is above the boom in the middle of the air. And I was able to come off that rebound, take myself above the boom, and crash. Pretty cool, huh? How are we doing? Not necessarily the way you think of it, but I'm telling you, you go this route, you're going to get this. It's not.
As soon as you get above the boom, everything's going to happen.
No.
No?
But,
Up in the air?
but the crashes are going to hurt way less. Well, actually, not really. Once the tail comes out of the water and you're getting above the boom, they will hurt way less. But you're going to come flying in now, shoulders first, land on your head, put sails out of the way. Because again, as long as I can spin this rig out of the way and my nose is going that way, I'm happy to throw myself into oblivion and go for that flip into my bed. And now I'm falling over, shoulders first, towards the water, and I'm holding onto a bar. Guess what I want to do with the bar? Keep pulling. So you guys are going to be flopping over and go, no! You're going to pull it in on top of you 100 times, but at least you're getting above the boom. And then you'll swim out and be like, damn, I'm like around. If I keep my hands up, I'm in good shape. But I got over. If I can get the nose and tail to change places when the nose is spinning, I'm going to end up under the sail with the thing going around. You guys seeing this? We doing good? Olin?
Yep.
Sorry, I ain't trying to be quiet. So, I still have not taught you how to loop yet, but now we can spin the nose. We understand how to try to get ourselves above that boom, climbing that boom in the air. We get the idea. Question so far? Yes, have we talked about sheeting in yet?
No.
We're allowed to sheet how? Up and out, but not in. Okay, so now we got to figure out how to make the thing dry. Right, we're getting on our way here, and this is a story which I think you have all had happen to you before. You have fallen in the water. Okay, never mind. You've fallen in the water, and your board's pointed straight upwind, and your sail's flying, but your feet are on the board. Right? You're too lazy to get your feet off and kick the nose downwind, so you're like push, right? And you're sliding the sail forward with everything you have, and you're slicing it forward, and it starts to catch wind, but you can't get up yet, because why? It's straight upwind. So you have to let the board turn downwind, and when you let it turn downwind, you start going under your hands, so the board's turn where you want, and then you roll back up for your water start. We've all been pointed too far upwind and been too lazy to get off the board, but you know you can't get up, because when you're straight upwind, the boom's like up here. Like they're stretched out, trying to get the damn thing to turn downwind. And then once it turns downwind, you can let it pick you back up and lift you back up over that board. The end of the loop is like trying to turn straight downwind from the end of the water start, where you're rounded up too far. And it's going to take a lot of stretching and sheeting forward. Like taking the clue from where you'd be holding it normally and lifting it back up over your head and pushing it forward so you can turn that nose downwind. And then when it turns downwind, letting the sail do its thing and just repositioning your body before you allow yourself to get back up again. So while you're flying towards that water head first, Michael, now it's time to sheet forward. And as I'm heading towards the water, I'm going to push the sail forward, sheeting forward. The wind is going to get it underneath the sail and lift it back up and plop it around into a water start position where we head out the original direction, which we'll look at a little bit more in a tape. Now this is a lot to remember. Tyson and Witt have a great mantra when they teach looping. They say, remember this, big, small, big. It's a very easy way to remember loop. When I start the loop, what am I?
Big.
I'm big. When I come off that diving board and start to flip myself into the bed, I'm small. I'm looking back, my eyes are closed, I'm trying to tuck my shoulder down and lay into that bed. Now I'm small. But as I'm flipping over, it's time to get big again. And as I'm flipping on my back, I got to sheet that sail forward, try to extend that sail upward so it catches wind, let it pick wind up, and spin me back around so that I'm big again. I'm trying to water start out of that finish. All right, so I'm ripping along. Front hand's way back, John, all the way against the line. Back hand way back. I unhook. I hang down. I'm ripping along. I'm over the back of the board. I'm ready to go. I see a ramp across the wind and a little maybe shoal I could jibe into the ramp. And a little bit of downwind of a ramp. I sheet out. I lean back. The board's going up the ramp. I push it way down on the back foot. I pick the boom up, putting the tail down, lifting up on the front foot, and lifting the clue. The board goes up the ramp, starts to turn. I feel the end of the tail's rebound. So the tail's done going down. As it comes back up, I pull myself back up above the boom. The nose goes down, I start to flip for the bed. Tucking the front shoulder, looking back, trying to go over towards the bed. I'm falling towards the water, head first towards the bed. From here, I sheet forward and in. Start to tuck my head back under the boom. The wind comes back up under the side, it lifts it back up, pulls me back around, and I pop up and I'm down forward. Just like the bungee cord bob or the spring? What's the difference between a bungee cord and a spring? A spring, when you push down, if you time a spring right, you get huge air. If you time a bungee cord right, you still get yanked back down to earth and it doesn't quite work right. You want to be a spring when you take off in the tail. And this is interesting because this has to do with timing the diving board or the compression. If I push down on the tail, Robert, but I start my upswing and cheating on that boom while the tail's going down, or I mistime it and I'm too quick on the tail bob, then it's going to yank me out of the foot straps like a bungee cord. This thing's going to load up, it's going to go wing, and I'm going to get stuck in those straps and it's going to pull me out. You've got to wait for that tail to rebound. But don't kick it. You're not going to stay under the boom. A lot of people, when they first try to loop, they put the sail up and then they try to kick the tail. Not tail is coming after your head. The tail's coming around later. No tail work. If you spin the nose that way, tail's going to flip over your head. Don't worry about it. I've got to be the spring. I want to push you down. I want to feel this thing spring up. When it springs up, then I'm going to climb that ring. That's the timing that it's going to take after we learn to spin the nose. You can twist lock your feet in duck style. You can lock them both forward. You have to have your front knee facing forward as you hit the water. So you know, a lot of boots we turn our knee back before we take off. This one you want to keep your foot in the foot strap normal. And so some people will duck lock them, you know, or twist lock them some way to get them in there. But I think once you really get the feel of the rhythm of the board springing, and you keep the rail up like David's saying, then it's going to stick to your feet when you're going around. All right, guys. So what I'm doing is I'm on a starboard tack. What we're going to do, if you want to try this, you're going to sheet out, you're going to throw this thing up in the air. You're going to spring off the board, you're going to try to pull it behind you into your stomach, you're going to flip over to this thing head first. Land on the feet, take off the other side. It'll look like this. Peter! Very stupid but fun. And then somebody has to water start